The following is the extract of a course linked in the description.
Hey guys, thank you for joining me on this new video. Just give me 1 second. What I'm gonna show you actually today is I'm gonna walk you through a template that I use for basically every project. It has changed over time, but I'm gonna go through what I basically set up in that project. I'm gonna make some changes, remove some things, and I'm gonna provide you and end up providing you with that template so you could use that. Go ahead and make the changes that you need to make. So if we come on the playlist here, basically you're gonna see it's almost empty, right? But one of the things that you're gonna see at the bottom here, I have set up some starter tracks, if you want to call it like that. That is just basically just the labels and the colors. So I just like to really have all my tracks here well colored and well organized. So when I come back, 6 months, 2 years later, it's easy for me to know what is what. It's not that difficult because you just need to mute something and just hear it. But I just find that that helps me a lot more. So basically what I do is over here I'm going to label them because doing that for every project, once, okay, two times, okay, three times, at the fourth time you're like, you know what, I need to do something, really, yeah, I need to do something different because you're doing the same thing over and over. So what I do is as I have set up here some starter tracks, the way I usually call some of the tracks that I use, right? So you have melody here and the cutter as well. Over here you have most of the things for the drums, kick, snare, hi-hat. Over here I have synths, bass, lead, chords, strings, keys, loop if I'm using like something, let's say from Splice, maybe somewhere else, I could use that. And over here those are just my tags. So those tags you're gonna see here, they're already loaded and they already as well have some effects going into it. So if I play it, you see there is some reverb and there is some delay there. And as well, if I come to this one, purchase your tracks today. This is what I use. So sometimes when I'm posting my tracks on YouTube, I'm gonna put that tag, those tags there, right? So this is what we have on the playlist. And basically, when I'm ready to, let's say I have some tracks that could be appear that I've already made. We're gonna be able to go through that. But let's say I have something. I have a hi hat. I have a snare. So this is my pattern here, right? And as well I have just like this default for here the channel over here on the channel right. I just have the four default here. Those are the four default of the 808. I think you can find that template over here. I believe that's the basic 808. That's what you're gonna find. Sometimes it might be, I'm coming up with a melody really quickly. I just want to see, instead of going and actually looking for the perfect sound that's gonna sit well with that melody, I can just provide a basic drum pattern with those four, and later on I'm gonna go ahead and maybe keep maybe the hi-hat or the snare and add some other stuff, remove the kick, or do whatever I need to do. So this one is always just for a starter. So let's say I have over here the pattern. I'm just gonna give me 1 second. I'm gonna have it here. Why is it? Okay, just 1 second. Because okay, it's on events. So let me put it over here on bar. So I'm gonna have it like this, and let's say it does continue there. And what I'm gonna do later on, I'm just gonna come up here. So let's say that was my drum number one. I'm just gonna move that. So the way I'm moving that, I am on a MacBook, and the way I'm doing that, I'm pressing Shift, and I'm moving the trackpad up. So it's possible that if you have the a mouse, maybe you just need to scroll to scroll wheel up, right? Over here you're probably gonna have the move up, but basically try something with shift and scrolling with or moving with uh, just moving the mouse. So basically that's the way I'm able to move them really quickly here. So from here, what I'm gonna do is I can select with the select button here. I'm gonna say I'm gonna select that whole track, and then I'm gonna say I'm gonna move that whole track here, right? So this is the way I'm able to basically have them instead of coming up here myself and typing the name again. I just hate doing that. I've done it like so many times that I don't want to do that again. For specific tracks, I don't mind if it's one or two, but doing that every time for 8 to 10 tracks doesn't really seem too pleasing. So when I do that, the last thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come up here and just say auto name clips. So basically, with that, the name that is showing up here is now gonna show up in the different patterns, and as well, it's gonna take up. It does take the name, but it does take up as well the color that is being provided here, and the pattern over here in the pattern list over here is also gonna change. So I'm gonna do that. Now you see that everything now is renamed drums number one, and over here as well it is drums number one. Okay, so that's how I'm able to do it really quickly. To rename, I just need to move up all those tracks over there, assign them to that auto names, and basically I'm ready to go. Okay, when we move, so we looked at the playlist over here, we looked at the channel rack. The other thing is gonna be over here in the mixer. So the mixer is a little bit is about the same. We're gonna work through some tracks over here. What you're gonna find is I have some pre-made some effects that are already assigned over here. There are also some effects that I have here on the sand tracks over here. And we're gonna look at that when we're gonna go a little bit more over mixing. But over here, I have some effects on the master bus, um, and this one over here helps me when I do mixing, and we're gonna look at that. The freely balance as well. I'm gonna be able to explain a little bit that. This one is a plugin. It has changed. I have about 3, 4 plugins that I've used over time for mastering, but this is the one now that I'm using at the moment. Okay, but because you might not have it, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove most of those plugins, some of the plugins that are not proprietary to FL Studio. The issue that's what's gonna do is if you don't have it when you're gonna try to open it, it's gonna give you a warning that's gonna let you know that you don't have that plugin. If you have it, then just copy whatever you sing in this video and go ahead and add it and add it there. It should be fine. Over here, I have a brick wall. So usually I usually have you're gonna have some mastering plugins. You know what? I'm gonna explain a little bit later. But so basically, that's what I have. I have some span over here. This is just so if you look at this, it's just something that provides some metrics for me. Usually, I look at the information that is below here, and you also have. I also have this one over here that provides me some metrics over here, and we're gonna uh, dive a little bit into that. So over here, really quickly, usually what you're gonna find in the individual track bus over here, you what you're gonna find, I usually have parametric. Basically, what I mean, I basically have an EQ. It could be one or two EQ. The first EQ, you could do everything on one EQ, but the first EQ usually just want to filter. So maybe I want to remove part of the bass over here. I want to remove a lot of high frequency. I'm going to do it on one plugin, and I'm going to add another EQ over here to now go and add or remove whatever I want to remove again, right? So that's what you're gonna find over here for most of them. And over here, that's what I was saying. So you have over here the first one. So on the drum over here, it could be that I want to remove a little bit of the low end or a little bit of the high end over here, and I'm gonna use this one. So this is just another plugin that I'm using. It's part of the tier rack. So that is IK Make Multimedia, and I just like the way this plugin over here is set up, right? You go ahead, you use whatever works for you. I just like this one the way it is set up for me over here. That's the one that I use later on to make some changes. I do sometimes change. Sometimes I'm gonna use as well the pull tech over here. And what I like about the pull tech is um, I don't want to say sweet, but basically you can crank it up quite a bit, and it's not gonna add a lot of distortion or saturate the sound of your plugin. So I like the way it goes and trying to EQ stuff most of the time. And it's really like it's one of the most used EQ of all time, right? So I would probably say every studio out there uh, that's really worth its name that have like a real version, the physical version of the pool deck, right? So I'm gonna sometimes use that, or sometimes most of the time I use this one over here. Okay, so this is what you're gonna find over here. We have the parametric over here and that other one. So sometimes what I do on buses, so basically track bus is um, if you have a look here, right? And this is one of the things as well that has already been configured over here is I already assigned. So in this group, everything that is relating to drums is coming over here to this specific drum bus, and this is what you're seeing over here. Everything is being routed here, and now the drum bus is going uh, to the master, right? And most of the time when I assign it to a drum bus, I'm gonna try to use a compressor at that point, right? Uh, the compressor, I'm gonna get into that into me when I'm gonna get into mixing because I don't want to make this video way too long. Because I just want to explain the template that I'm using, right? But yeah, so I'm gonna use the compressor just on the drum bus to make some of the sound over here a little bit more even or reduce the dynamic range, and we're gonna get into that. And same thing a little bit here for the synth as well. What you're seeing, everything is being routed over here to this synth bus. Most of them only have a parametric over here, just an EQ. I might just add the second. I don't know why I didn't add the second one over here. The second EQ could just be that I forgot about it. And over here, I just made a note to use to add a compressor. So the compressor that I'm using the most is part of the Arturia compressor. That's another compressor that I really like the way it's laid out and the way it works. You could use any other compressor, but the thing is because this is gonna be a template every time that you're starting uh, your session of FL Studio, because it needs to load all of those. What happens is it depends on the resource that it's gonna use. It could take a long time, a bit of time for your project to load. So you're gonna compare between having a bare minimum session with no plugins loaded and a session that has like several other plugins. It just take longer to load. And what I found, a little bit over time is compressor do take a little bit more time, a little bit more resources. So I don't usually add them at the very beginning. But if I really need them at some point, then I have my reminder here when I come and work on that bus to let me know that I need to add a compressor, right? So this is what I have. For the bass over here, it's a little bit different. I have a per take here. I have a parametric over here. So with the bass, I might use a little bit of the blood overdrive over here just to boost that even more. Or sometime as well, I could just use a little bit of distortion. But you're gonna find for those two over here, by default, I just have them muted, right? And it just depends on how the song goes. I might go ahead and add that. So this is basically what we have over here. It's a little bit of the same thing over here. The only thing what you're gonna notice the difference over here with the bass over here and this one over here, I do not have an EQ at the top over here. That's because I don't on the bus. I don't want to over EQ whatever I already did here. that's just me. When it comes to mixing and everything, it's art and science. So, and it really depends on your taste as well, right? So basically over here, I've already did some EQing. In this place over here, I might not go to harsh, or I might not go to filter stuff. So I have an EQ, but I actually provided a pull take here, because this one is a lot more sweet. When I make changes, you don't it's noticeable, but it's not crazy, right? So that's the only difference I have there. So I have a lid over here that basically follow the same process, and let me see if there is anything else that's a little bit different. And that's pretty much it. So mostly that's what you're gonna see in some of the tracks over here, and depending as well how the track is gonna go, I'm gonna add some more. Sometimes what I use as well is gonna be the Reason Rack plugin effect. So I probably went into a lot more talk about what I think of Reason. I like some of the effects. I like the model, their flow of having several instruments over here in one. And the other thing that I like about that as well is it doesn't use a lot of resources. So even if we try to load several stuff over here, let me remove that. Let me go to instrument. You're not supposed to load instrument there, but let me just load some stuff here so you can see a little bit what I'm talking about. And let me add some effect as well, just one. So you see over here I have about already 4 instruments loaded, but if I come up here, you're gonna find, let me freeze that is just use about 3% of the, sorry, 3% of the resources. Okay, so that's one thing I like about the Reason is the Reason rack over here is really resource efficient, right? So that's one thing as well that I might use some from time to time. Okay, so that is what you see over here. The last part that we're gonna have is gonna be over here. Basically, I have about 5 tracks over here where I do send tracks, right? That's usually the way it's called. By default, back in the days, FL Studio was coming with 4 tracks that you could not really change. You could not add more tracks over here that needed to be send tracks, right? But now they don't have send tracks anymore. Any tracks could be a send track. So I can come up here and basically say that I want this to be a send track, and it's going to be moved up here. And from here, I can basically say this is going to be another reverb, just like this, really quickly. Okay, so the way I set it up is I have actually set up my send tracks, because what I found, and you can, I think back in the days as well, that was a little bit of the thinking behind it. Anything that had to do with reverb, chorus, delays, that kind of thing, it was really intense on the resource of your computer. So if you had to add it on every track, add reverb every time you needed that, it just yeah, you're just gonna use all the resources of that you have on your computer, and basically it's not good. So what we do is we basically create those same tracks here. So we just add one reverb, right? And now at any point we can say to this track over here that we want to route it here, right, to this reverb over here. So now it's a little bit more efficient, where I'm using, if all the track wants to use reverb, it's pretty efficient because I only have one reverb, but I can send them, and I can even control the amount that I'm sending over here, right? So basically that's what we have. So most of the time I just have the reverb over here, I have the delay, chorus, and a little bit of flanger. Flanger I don't use too much, even chorus as well, but I would say reverb and delay are the ones that I'm using a lot. And what you're gonna find here as well, I think most of the reverb that I'm using are just the the stock reverb that comes with FL Studio. I find that they already have some great sound, and the thing as well is the religious resource. They're really efficient on the resource of it. You don't really, they're not power hungry. You're gonna see that if I go ahead and I add just one of the other reverb that I'm using here from Arturia, and if I go back here, you're gonna see if I freeze that, you're gonna see over here it's already at 8%. But if I try to do uh, something over here, you see like I have about, looks like I have even more reverb in this place over here, and I have about three reverbs over here, but they're all at zero. But that one is all the way to 15 reads, so it's using quite a bit over here, 10, 9, and it's so that's the thing that you have. So most of the time, I just find that unless I really want to be a little bit more creative and maybe find a different way the reverb is working, then I'm gonna go and use one of those other ones that I've bought. But most of the time, I just find that the one that come with FS Studio are, more than enough. Okay, and over here as well, you have I have a chorus, and this is the chorus that actually comes with FS Studio. You have something that is similar. Let me see if I can find it. Core, I think it's the yeah. It's actually model is one of the this one over here. So the this vintage chorus over here, you're gonna see is similar to what we have here. It's the chorus that was that was available that's available on the Juno synths, right? So Arturia has their emulation of it, but later on, FS Studio actually came up with their own as well. So that if I go to the Juno over here, June 6V of Arturia, you're gonna find that's a little bit the one that we have here, and they added a couple more things to that. Okay. So yeah, so basically that's a little bit of the setup here of that template. Like I said, part of the some of the ones that some of the plugins here that I'm using that I know that don't come with FL stock, I'm gonna remove them. But I'm gonna be, I've already walked you through what I have here for the template. When we're gonna review, when we're gonna go into mixing, we're probably gonna end up a little bit with the same layout that we have here and the same part of the same plugins that we're using here. So you could follow along if you want to find them, buy them, or you if you have um, alternative to those plugins, then you could go ahead and use it. But this is the template that I'm using. I'm going to include it for you to be able to download it, tweaks, and keep using. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. Yeah.